Greetings, adventurers, and welcome back to Adventures with Dice. I'm Rob, and I'm your host for these videos. And in this video, I'm going to be talking about solo tips and thoughts I have on solo gaming, having just completed one for the channel and doing some others on my own here. This probably won't be the last tips video that I ever do for this, but I thought I would go over some of the stuff that has occurred to me as I've been doing this. And one of the changes that I'm making to how I post them on the channel. So that change is that initially when I put them up, they were listed as Adventures with Dice Solo Season 1 episode whatever, and then the game that I was playing. I've taken the season out of it, and it's just Adventures with Dice Solo, Episode 1. And the reason for that, it is not going to make sense to everybody, but it makes sense to me, and it will make sense to other YouTubers, I'm sure, because what happened, and I found this out after I started doing it, was I would do season 1. So the way I was doing it, I was playing through most of the game, and then at the end on the cliffhanger, I was doing the live rolls for what would happen at the end, setting up the next episode. The problem with this came in, I was preparing that, I would play that out and get ready for the filming part of it. Filming with this filming, so I'm not filming, I'm recording. But I would get ready for that part of it, but then, life was going on, and I would have to have the house quiet and so on and so forth to be at a point where I could record it. And sometimes that would be like a week before I would get to record it. Well, during that time, I would have the itch to, to want to play more, but I couldn't, because then I would be uploading other games or other episodes in the middle of a season that I was doing. So it made it very confusing for the listing of how I listed them on the channel. So by switching it to just Adventures with Dice Solo, Episode 1, and then the game, instead of a season, means that I could be playing this game, and while I'm waiting for a chance to record, I could play another game, record it, and get it ready to go at the same time. So it sounds kind of weird, but it makes more sense for them to go up like this, and I can get more games in and get more games uploaded and play at the same time, instead of just doing one and having to wait to record before I can do the next segment. Hopefully that'll make sense when you go to watch them. But that's just a small change that I made. So I'm going to start out by, admitting up front, I am not like the world's leading expert on solo RPGs or solo gaming. There are plenty of these channels out there that I watch and get ideas from, things that I try in my games or products that I try. And but as I'm doing it, and I do have a decent amount of followers who are watching these videos, I want to put out stuff that's focused on what I'm learning as I go through it. So one of the biggest things to look at when you get into solo role-playing is what type of solo rules and or / oracle are you going to use to emulate a game master running the game for you. And there are 3 basic types of doing this, or basic ways of doing this. The first one would be systems that you choose that have a oracle or solo rules built into the system. Like 4 Against Darkness is a game that was specifically designed for solo adventuring. Sacrifice, which I just did a video on some of the Sacrifice books that I got. These games come with it built into the system. Scarlet Heroes comes with it built into the system. You also have games that are I don't know, like Dragonbane comes with a set of solo rules that are designed to use with the system as is. You also have Forbidden Lands, they do that. They did the Strider mode for the One Ring. And anybody who tells you that solo role playing is just not a thing doesn't know what they're talking about, because if it wasn't a thing, you wouldn't have all these bigger companies starting to put out there. I mean, there's even solo rule stuff coming out for 5e or 6e or whatever it's about to be. But you have solo rules coming out for a lot of these bigger games, and if there wasn't a market for it, they wouldn't continue to do it. So that's one type of Oracle system, is a game that has it built into it to use with the game mechanics that you're already playing. And then you have the second one is oracles that you use with a normal game that's not, the game itself is not designed for solo play. And we could take anything, for instance, here. You could take Warhammer Fantasy or GURPS or Savage Worlds. Any of these games that are strictly designed just for group play. You can also play solo, but you have to attach an Oracle solo rule system to it. And by that I mean you take one of those games and you attach Bell Whispers, or you attach Mythic GM Emulator or something like that to it, so that you have that solo aspect of it to play. The third type of Oracle would be the ones that you design, and I'll throw a picture of some charts up here if I can remember. Some of the charts that I've designed for doing basic fantasy solo. But the question comes in, do you have to buy anything? No, you can design your own charts, but I do think you need to play some solo games in order to know what kind of charts you need for generating the kinds of things that come up in your games. Or you can just have rules for it in your head. One of those channels that I follow that's not as big, it's not like, I watch Geek Gamers and stuff like that, like everybody else who's into this kind of gaming. But I'm a big fan of the Random Encounter show. And Deathstalker 5, over on the Random Encounter show, he's been solo gaming for a long time. He does a lot of videos on solo gaming hobbies. And he has a video on his channel about not using Mythic, not using any of these things, just using your own Oracle, your own design in your head, and not buying anything to do it. And that is obviously an option as well. If you get a chance, go check his channel out. It's very enjoyable. My biggest piece of advice on those three Oracle options would be to not limit yourself. Try different things. Try the different types of Oracles. And see what it is you like, what works for you. Because even with trying all three, you might find that, hey, this one thing is the way I like to do it. Or you might find that, hey, I like this Oracle system for this type of mechanical game, or I like this Oracle system for this type of mechanical game, and end up using different things. So I suggest trying them all and just seeing what you like. One of the second biggest tip that I can give you when it comes to solo gaming is don't be too hard on yourself. And what I mean by that is not being too hard on yourself in solo play. If you're having fun, then you're doing it right. Okay, it's as simple as that. You have to remember that in solo play, you're not presenting a game for a group like a game master would. You're presenting a game for you. So it doesn't matter what Oracle system you use, whether it's a paid for system like Mythic or something like that, or whether it's one that you just use dice rolls like Deathstalker does on the Random Encounter show. And I know he's tried other rule sets and stuff too, but he's been playing solo for a long time, and in one of his videos, he goes really in depth with explaining how he does just percentile dice, rolling for stuff. So just find the thing that makes it fun for you and just start. That's the biggest thing I see with a lot of people having questions is I don't know where to start. Well, make a character, pick a game and get started. Which brings me to my third point, my third tip, trick, musing, whatever you want to call it. And this I think is the most important and it's the easiest to get lost in. And that is keep it small. It is so easy to get into solo gaming and start collecting this book because somebody said it was really cool, or start collecting that book because somebody said it was cool. And before you know it, you have all these books with all these wonderful charts and oracles and things in them. And they're all sitting before you when you get ready to play. And what happens 9 times out of 10 is you will get analysis paralysis. You will start, where was that chart that I liked? And you'll start digging through the books and looking through this book and that book and this book and that book. And next thing you know, you're spending more time digging through books looking for charts and oracles than you are playing the game. So, as a little subset to this rule, these would be my guidelines for getting started with it. First, don't bite off more than you chew. Pick a rule set, preferably one that you already know well. If you already know the rule set well, it's going to be a lot easier for you to make decisions and guide the game. Now, that doesn't mean you can't use this to try out new games, because I do that. Excuse me, I do that. A lot of people do that. And that can be great. Probably not something you want to do on video because it eats up a lot of time, but you can try new games out with it. But if you're just starting out and you want to try solo gaming, I highly suggest picking a game system that you already know really well. Then, now this one's simple. You can do this at the dollar store. Grab a journal, a notebook, whatever. You don't have to go through and flesh it out like a writing exercise, like you're doing a story like I did with Old Swords Reign. And the story that went on with Corinne and the werewolves. You can simply use it per session just to keep notes on important highlights, things that happen. And some people say you don't have to do that. I highly recommend it because I assure you you're going to forget stuff. And having some kind of notes to go back to it's vitally important. And then when it comes to that stack of cool books you got with all these tables and everything in them, for that game, you can change it up per game, but for that game, I'd pick maybe two of those random chart books and leave it at that, and try to just stick to that, as it's going to help your tempo and your pacing for the game not get bogged down digging through book after book after book. Just say, okay, well, I'm doing Savage Worlds, and I'm going to use Mythic and Table Fables, and that's going to be all I use. Or I'm going to use whatever, I'm going to use the Dragonbane system, which is what I did for my solo rules in the first series that I did. And I'm going to use it again when I do Dragonbane solo. And that's really it. That's the... I know it sounds simplistic. It sounds overly simplistic, but it is. It is overly simplistic, but it works. And trust me, I've collected up a lot of random chart books, and having to cut them down to only so many per game session when I get started was one of the first things I had to learn, because I started messing around with it before I even got into the filming part of it. And I was just pulling from here and there and everywhere. And I did find that I was spending way more time digging through the books looking for the right chart than I was playing the game. And that's when I was like, okay, no, we got to cut this back. I need just the bare essentials to push the game forward, just to keep the momentum, keep everything going. So if you are interested in trying it, you probably already have a rule set that you like. There are cheap to free versions of all of this stuff online. I think the one-page Mythic costs like $2 or something on DriveThruRPG. That's a great way to start. I'm going to be using it with my 4 Against Darkness game that I'm going to be doing. just for the outside the dungeon stuff, decision making. So it's going to be very light use. So I figured I only need something light, so I'll use One Page Mythic for that. But I would just pick a rule set that you like, find you an oracle, or make your own oracle real quick, and you know, you don't have to be super fancy with it. Just work out some charts for probabilities and yes, no's, maybes, whatever, and then just start playing. So, are any of you getting into solo role playing? Because this is something I've just started doing heavily in the last few months. I've played the game book style choose your own adventure stuff for a very long time, but I hadn't gotten deep into this. I've dabbled with it here and there, this kind of solo role playing with a regular system. I've dabbled with it for a while, but I didn't go headlong into it until a few months ago. I started, it's all that shows up in my YouTube now. It's pretty much that. And videos that my wife watches, because she uses my YouTube and it gets flooded with stuff she watches. But if you have other tips and tricks that you think work with solo role playing, put them down in the comments. Everybody likes to read that stuff. I like to read that stuff, and you may hit on something that I hadn't even thought of. And like I said, I'm sure that I'll be back with another one of these videos at some point as I play more games and experience more systems and solo systems and so on and so forth. I'm going to have more information to add to this. So that's all I've got for today. I am filming this on the second day of 2024. So Happy New Year to everyone. Looking forward to 2024 election here in the United States. What could possibly go wrong? Anyway, that's all I've got for right now. Good gaming and good luck.